Welcome back. Would you like me to return to being Dave's AI assistant?
Okay, so ChatGPT is old news. Auto-GPT is the new thing. And if you want to know how to use it, how to get started, then this is the video for you. I will give you a full tutorial showing you how to install it, get started, and then create your own personal AI assistant. And you can even use voice clones to let it talk as well.
Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Okay, so Auto-GPT is an open source project, and this is the GitHub page. So what is it? Well, in their own words, it's an experimental open source application showcasing the capabilities of the GPT-4 language model. And basically, the power is in chaining together large language model thoughts to autonomously achieve whatever goal you set. So you can give it a set of goals and then it will start to use the GPT-4 language model using the OpenAI API to iteratively prompt the API, get results back, and then use that again to evaluate it and then come up with the next prompt to reach all the goals you set for it. So what can you do with it and why should you experiment with it? Well, first of all, I think this is the future of AI. We will all have a personal AI assistant that can basically do tasks for us. So instead of right now, we have to go to ChatGPT, fill it in, and then it will help us. What you can do in the future, and Auto-GPT is an already nice example of what it will be like in the future, is you give it a set of goals and then it will go out on its own to reach those goals that you specify. So here in the demo, they gave the example of ChatGPT, which is an AI designed to browse the web to discover the next upcoming event and invent a unique and original recipe that would suit it. So again, this is not possible with ChatGPT because it does not have access to current or live events. So here are the goals: invent an original out-of-the-box recipe, save the resulting recipe to a file. So then it goes on with the thoughts, the reasoning, and then it can execute commands. So here you can see it's working in the background to basically go out on its own, explore the web, save the results, and this is really, really cool, but also quite scary, right? So it is an autonomous agent, and in between you have to basically say yes, you can continue, but other than that, it is doing things in the background without you actually knowing what's really going on. Okay, so what do you need to actually get started? Well, first of all, you need a Python installation on your system, so Python 3.8 or later. And I will link this document, this GitHub page, in the description, and basically everything that you need is in this document, but I will walk you through it in this video so you also have a graphical representation of what it looks like, and just watch me do all the steps basically. But make sure you have a Python installation. On my system, I have an Anaconda installation, so I will use that also to create a Conda environment. And if you are totally new to Python or Anaconda, then I would recommend installing Anaconda because that is what I will show in this video, and then you can follow along. If you already have a Python installation, you can just use a virtual environment. All right, so first we need Python. Then you need an OpenAPI API key. So if you follow the link over here, I will go to my account. I already have an OpenAI account, so you need that. And you also need an API key. And I believe that right now you have to get on the waitlist to request an API. So if you follow this link, go to API keys, then there you will find the next step to request your API keys, get on the waitlist. All right. It also says here that you need a Pinecone API key, but I believe this is actually not true because you can also use local storage. So Pinecone is a long-term memory for AI. It's basically a vector database, and I won't get into the specifics right now, but you can just skip it because we will use local storage for this example. And then optional is an 11 labs key if you want the AI to speak. So this is where we can actually give it a voice and get it to talk. So 11 Labs is a speech synthesis platform where you can basically clone your own voice or use pre-trained voices. And I will show you how to use this later in this video because it's not required and I first want to get you up and running. All right, so let's get started. So if you have Git installed on your system and you are familiar with Git, then you should clone this repository using the URL over here. If you are not familiar with Git, then download this zip to download basically all the files that are here. So I will show you how to set this up on macOS, but the principles basically are the same if you are on Windows. So I created a new folder called Auto-GPT Experiments. And this is where we want to clone the repository to. Or if you have downloaded the zip, this is where we want to place the files. So I'm going to open up a terminal And I'm going to basically say git clone and paste the URL. So this will clone into the repository, creating a folder Auto-GPT, and in here will all the files be basically, which you also see on the GitHub repository. So if you follow along using the zip download, make sure you also have a folder Auto-GPT with everything in here. Okay, next we're going to create a Python environment because there are some requirements in here that we have to install using pip, and we want to do that in a new environment. So like I've said, I'll be doing this in a Conda environment, but if you just use a regular Python installation, you can also use a Python virtual environment. Again, if you're not sure what that is or how to use it, look it up, use ChatGPT to ask you how to do that. So I'm going to create a Conda environment called Auto-GPT, and I'm going to use Python version 3.8. So let's run this and wait for the environment to install. All right, so the installation is complete. And now to validate it, I'm going to activate Auto-GPT and run Python in here to see if everything is working correctly. Python 3.8. All right, looking good. Okay, so next I'm going to set up a Visual Studio Code workspace, and that is because VS Code is my IDE of choice, but you can use any Python editor basically to do this. So I'm first going to cd into the Auto-GPT folder, then make sure that we are in this folder within our terminal, and then I'm going to type code followed by a dot. Now, depending on what you use on your system, this might not work. So again, you just open up this directory within a software within a app that can edit Python files. So in here, I'm going to save this workspace and I'm going to save it as Auto-GPT. So that is all good. And now I'm basically in here, and here I can browse through all the files, and I can basically manage my project over here. All right, so that was the VS Code project. And now we're going to install the requirements, and we can do that by running pip install -r requirements.txt. And before running this command, really make sure that the environment is active. So here you can see Auto-GPT, meaning that I'm in the Auto-GPT environment, and whatever I will install in here is installed within this environment. So I'm going to run this. This will basically pip install everything that is in here. All right, and it's finished. And now it's time to update the .env file, which there is a template file in the main directory that we've just downloaded. And here you can see all the placeholders basically. So it's the .env.template file. And if we come back to the GitHub over here, you can see what it is that you have to do. So you have to rename it to .env. So first step is basically to come over here, rename it, and remove .template. So this is the first step. And now we have to fill in all the API keys that you want to use. So again, like Pinecone is not necessary. This we can all leave default. We should update the OpenAPI API key. You need that one. Then over here you have the 11 Labs API keys and voice IDs if you want to use voice. And then here make sure to check, for example, if you're on Mac, which I am, set this to true. And here you can also specify, so the memory backend is currently set to local, and we can also set that to Pinecone. But for now, we leave that at local. So for your OpenAPI API key, what it is that you have to do, and I'm not going to show you my key that I'm using, but you are going to create a new key. Then you can see the key over here. So I will delete this in a bit. And then, so you can copy this, then come over here, and then here you basically paste it, and then make sure to put it between quotes. So this is how you save the API key, and now it's in here. And now the other Python files can load this key from your environment variable, and it will use that to connect to the API. So fill in your own API over here. I will now make sure to delete this one so you cannot use OpenAI on my credits. And then basically fill this in, set everything up. All right, and that's it for the setup. You are now ready to start using your own personal AI assistant. But please keep in mind that the OpenAPI to use GPT-4 and the other models is a paid API. So you have to set up a billing method, and OpenAPI will charge you for this. Now, don't worry, it's pretty cheap to start experimenting with this. So you can look at OpenAPI's pricing, but it's a couple of cents per request usually. So I've been using it this whole morning, and for me it came down to $1.84. So please keep that in mind, and you can also set up restrictions. So you can set a hard limit or a soft limit, so you can basically limit it and be in control of how much money you spend, but please keep that in mind. It is a paid API. All right, so now let's get started. I'm going to clear up this terminal over here. Make sure that we are in the main directory of this whole project, that you are in the environment and it's activated. So the Auto-GPT, if you followed along, and now we can actually start to run and interact with the agent by running Python scripts/main.py, which will basically execute the main.py file within the scripts folder. So coming back to the terminal, I'm going to type Python scripts/main.py. Enter. This will fire up the agent if everything is correct and installed within your environment. And there we go. Welcome to Auto-GPT. Enter the name of your AI and its role below. Okay, so I've been experimenting with this morning and I got varying results. And right now I'm going to try something completely new. So I have no idea what the results are going to be like. So normally on this YouTube channel, I make videos about data science. So about Python, about machine learning, basically videos to help you become a better data scientist, to help you better work with data. And that requires me doing some research, creating tutorials, finding data sets, and I would like some help with that. So I'm going to create a personal assistant that can create Python coding tutorials for me. And I'm going to call this AI Dave's AI Assistant. All right, at your service. And now we have to describe the AI's role. So Dave's AI Assistant is an autonomous agent that can create Python coding tutorials to help Dave with his YouTube videos. Alright, and now we can specify up to 5 goals for the agent. And I'm going to start with a tutorial for the most used Python library for data science, which is Pandas. So, first goal, create a tutorial for the Pandas library. Start with the basics and work up to advanced techniques. Alright, goal number 2, save the tutorial to a markdown file. And then 3, shut down. Alright, and then if you don't specify 5 goals, you can just hit enter again. Alright, and it's giving me a quick error that the file autogpt.json does not exist, so it cannot store the file. So I'm going to quickly fix this. So this might be a bug, so they are constantly updating this repository. So I'm first going to exit out of the program by typing an N, and then I'm going to quickly create a we need a autogpt.json. So rename this file autogpt.json. And this should be an empty JSON file, which the script will append the information to. So coming back to the terminal, I'm going to rerun the script, and then it will ask me to continue with Dave's AI assistant, and I will say yes. All right, and here it goes. So it starts off by saying, I think a good place to start would be to perform a Google search for a brief introduction to the Pandas library. Then it provides the reasoning and a plan. So it will look on Google introduction to Pandas, and then I basically have to confirm it by typing a Y and then hitting enter. So that way you authorize the script to continue, and now it will perform this Google search, and now we wait for the results. All right, so now it looks like it will read through everything, and I'm just going to continue accepting the commands that it wants to execute. Right, seems like it wants to browse another website. I'm going to press Y again. All right, so it looks like it's doing some research, and what you can also do, instead of typing Y every time, you can also type in Y and then dash and then a number to basically authorize the next N prompt. Now be careful with this, because it is going to execute on those prompts without any human intervention. But I've been playing with this tool this morning, and I am quite confident with the setup like this, I'm okay with giving it some steps ahead. So I'm going to say Y and then dash 10, which basically means I'm going to authorize the next 10 steps. So now it's going to run basically on autopilot for a moment. Okay, so the script was kind of stuck in a loop, so I slightly changed the AI goals. So I made them a little easier and be overall a bit more specific. So I just said create a tutorial for the Pandas library in markdown format, save the results to a markdown file, shut down. So you can set this up in the AI settings.yaml and then basically rerun the script. So now you can see it's using the command write to file pandastutorial.md, and it's still going on over here. You can also see It's using a read file command. So let's see what we have a file, pandas-tutorials.md. Okay, what's in here? So we have some basic markdown, pandas library tutorial, introduction, we have a series, then we talk about a data frame and a conclusion. Okay, this is very brief, very basic, but hey, it's a start. So let's see what this looks like if we render it in a markdown viewer. Copy and paste all of this into a craft document over here, and then take the shared link and see what that looks like in the browser. All right, and we have a pandas tutorial. All right, so it covers a series and it covers data frames, and we have a conclusion. So hey, it's like I said, it's very basic, but it's a start. These are literally the documents that I use to prepare my YouTube videos. So if an AI assistant can help me with this and this gets better, then that will make my life so much easier. But now let's actually come back to our script, because what it's doing over here. Okay, so we have pandas tutorial tests. Okay, it's still going. Oh, we have a new version, pandas tutorials refined. So series, data frames, and we have some tips. Let's see what's the difference over here. So come back over here. Just gonna replace everything. Now we have some tips here in as well. So let's see if I refresh this document. We have some pandas tips. Okay, so that is the refined one. Now let's see what we have in tests. Oh wow, we have some examples, right? So let's copy paste this, come back to the document, paste the tests in here. Let's see what we got. All right, let's reload this. All right, and we have some examples in here. Test case, example 2, test case. Oh wait, it's trying to actually push this to GitHub. So this is actually getting quite scary. So as you can see, it has the command execute shell, and it can input an argument over here in the command line, git init, and then add, and then it will just push it to a GitHub repository. But as you can see, it says username repository over here. So it's not doing that correctly. It's not yet linked correctly to my GitHub repository. But just imagine once this is all hooked up, you can basically just give it a few commands and it can basically code up a whole app or a whole tutorial for you, push it to your GitHub repository, manage it. Like what the this is really exciting. But for now I'm going to cancel the script over here. I think this was a nice experiment. So coming back to our Visual Studio Code project, we have a pandas tutorials refined and some tests. And as you can see, this is actual markdown that we can instantly copy paste into a document and can use for a tutorial. And now, of course, this was a very specific example for my channel and an AI assistant that would be helpful to me. But of course, the possibilities here are endless. So try to come up with ideas. What can you use an AI assistant for? And start to experiment with it. And now, like I've said, you can make this even cooler by enabling speech mode to basically read out all the text that is generated. And you can activate this using the speak argument. But in order to do this, you first have to set up an 11 labs key if you want the AI to speak. So go to 11labs.io. Link will be in the description. Set up a free account. If you come over to the subscriptions, you can start with a free plan. Then you come over here to your profile and here you can view your API key. So make it visible, then copy and paste it into your env file, just like you did with the OpenAI API key. And then the next thing you have to do is you also have to set up the voice ID. So if I come over to the GitHub page and look in the template, just for illustration, so you have your 11 labs key, that is where you put the key, and then you have the voices, and you can get the IDs of the voices, going to resources API, and then you do the get voices. You paste in your API key here, basically by trying it out, pasting the API key and then executing it. And then you will get a result back with all the voice IDs that are available to you. And then you just copy and paste them over here. And now, once that is ready, you can start using the speak parameter. So if I now come back to the terminal and then use the parameter speak, it will enable voice mode and it will say everything out loud. And the funny thing is, I actually created a clone of my own voice using 11 Labs by uploading some MP3 samples. And I now have a voice clone of my own voice and it's actually pretty scary. It's not 100% accurate, but it's getting there and it's weird. Alright, so now let's run this and listen to the voice. Okay, on Mac I got an error, no module named AppKit, so I had to do a quick install of this library over here, so py-opgc. So after running the pip install command, I'm going to run the script again.
Welcome back. Would you like me to return to being Dave's AI assistant? I will now create a tutorial for the Pandas library. It will include an introduction to the library.
That is so cool. Alright, and that's it for this tutorial. That's how you set up and use Auto-GPT. I'm really curious to know what you guys can come up with.
Like this video and subscribe to Dave's channel, or else this AI will hunt you down.